Today, we are talking about how your inner world is the blueprint for everything externally to you. So, everything does start with you and your vibration. If something isn't working well in your life, if you just take a look around and you see things that aren't kind of sitting from a place of joy and happiness, there's going to be an internal reason why. And this is because our world becomes a reflection of everything we think, feel, and believe, all of our expressions, all of our experiences up until now. And if we don't like what we see, the only way to really change that permanently and easily is by going within first. Let's dive into the podcast and I'll show you all about what that means and what you can do about it.
You're listening to the Intuitive Mastery Podcast. Hi, I'm Connolly, and with over 15 years of intuitive healing and teaching experience, I'm here to help you celebrate intuition and value authenticity to create a world where you have the freedom to live your best life. This podcast is here to teach you how to apply the principles of spirituality, healing, and mindset to have true and lasting joy, all from the inside out. This is the Intuitive Mastery Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast. We're going to start by gently anchoring ourselves into our bodies and just really landing here in this space. Just close your eyes for the moment if it's safe. Place a hand on your heart and just give yourself a minute to be with yourself. Sometimes just taking a couple of deep breaths is enough to bring everything back to yourself. And it also allows you to come out of that thinking mind into your body so you can take in information, but also give yourself a bit of a break. So hopefully that's what this will be for you today. Now, the internal creates the external. And I know that that is probably against popular belief, but it is increasingly more and more accepted, and people are becoming more and more aware of this quantum physics view of the world. Okay, we are the creators of our own realities. We are the actors, the managers, the stage production unit, we're everything. So as we show up based on our beliefs, our thoughts, our behaviors, our world will reflect back to us exactly what it is that we're putting out there. And we often feel like there's a bit of a disconnect, but I'm doing okay, but that person's really mean. I'm doing okay, but my job is the thing that's really bad. I'm doing okay, but my parents are in a bad place. My partner's like this. My child's in, having a temper tantrum, or whatever it is, whatever story you're telling yourself becomes part of what you think reality is. But what if none of that was true? What if how people behave, what if how the world interacts with you, how people think about you, how you show up in the world has everything to do with what's happening inside? And one of the reasons why people find this such a difficult thing to fully encompass is that it's kind of scary. That internal world, with the thoughts and the beliefs and the bad habits and the things about me I don't like, and the ways that my life isn't reflecting what I want back to me good. I don't want to go there. That's actually really, really scary. And I've been there, I've seen it. And I see that when people enter a spiritual journey, they tend to go one of two ways. They will go into a place of, I am hyper radically responsible for me and everyone else on the planet, so therefore I'm going to be hyper radically responsible for me and everyone else on the planet. I'm going to overgive and overgive and overgive, and I'm going to pull myself apart and pull myself apart and pull myself apart, and I'm going to, empty myself out into the last remaining few micro bits of me still exist, and I'm going to pick that apart too, right? I'm going to dive and dive and dive and dive, and I'm going to pull myself apart in ways that probably won't get me back together very well, right? This is what a lot of spiritual people do. And because I have the capacity and the understanding and the tools to work spiritually, I'm then also going to take responsibility for everyone around me. So if my partner's not coping, my kids are not coping, my friends are not coping, my parents are not coping, hey, I've got the tools, give it to me, right? And my gosh, that is a heavy, heavy burden to bear. And it doesn't work for multiple reasons. The first reason is that in the healing journey, the more we pull apart what's wrong with us, the worse our life gets. Because what we focus on, what we think and feel and believe about ourselves gets bigger. It also becomes what's reflected back to us. So when we have negative self-talk, when we go into spirals of anxiety and frustration and anger, and we don't know where they're coming from, and then we bash ourselves up for having those emotions, that spiral, that energetic and emotional spiral, then gets reflected out to us by other people. What we put out there in terms of our beliefs, we're kind of scanning the entire world around us 24/7 for things that are going to be an energetic fit. This is why sometimes we can, meet someone and feel like we've known them and gone along with them forever. And then other times we'll meet other people and there'll just be this instant disconnection and lack of kind of friendliness and a dislike even without even knowing someone. Why is that? Why is that? It's because how we are functioning internally, what our belief systems are, what our karmic imprints are, what all of our kind of energetic kind of makeup is going to be constantly scanning the world around us for people that are going to be or not be energetic fits to us. So when we have an experience where we pick ourselves apart and then we kind of go into this, it almost becomes like a self-hatred cycle. Like, let's just find out more things that are wrong with me so I can fix them and I can be a better person and then maybe people will love me. Oh no, but everyone's really bad outside of me, so I better help try and fix them too. Oh no, nobody likes me fixing them. This is really hard. I think I'm just going to keep trying harder. And it becomes this like circle of despair and frustration and anger and hopelessness. And, I'm on a spiritual path, but man, this is so hard. Like, I hate this. I don't want this. Like, please get me out of here. And there's definitely a better way. There's always a better way. But when we get caught up in these cycles, it can feel almost impossible to shift. It feels like there's kind of no ability to actually find our own truth in any of that, right? It's not to say we don't have healing to do. It's not to say that we don't have stuff that we need to explore. But if everything is seen through the lens of there's something inherently wrong with me, or I can't be better than anybody else, or if we see our life and ourselves through a lens that is clouding who we really are, then what we are seeing the world through and what the world is seeing us as is also going to be cloudy. So when we disconnect from that inner truth and we're not actually really connected with, our pure soul light, our deeper energetic imprint, that kind of higher self embodied in the human, we tend to do a bunch of different things. We overgive, we abandon our needs, and we wait for permission from others for everything. Peace, time off, holidays, relaxation, looking after self, all of those things that should be second nature to us tend to get outsourced. As in, I haven't looked after myself for 6 months, I haven't exercised, I haven't eaten properly, I haven't slept properly, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. I've been bending over backwards to help everybody else, but no one's happy. I'm constantly giving, I'm the overgiver, and crap, I feel disgusting and unwell and sick, and what's wrong with me, right? Number one, we haven't put our oxygen masks on first. But number two, we are living in a place of perpetual negative self-talk. So how do you think that's going to reflect back to us? That's going to reflect back to us with, drivers who are really angry with how we're driving, and people at work not happy with our work, people bullying us. Will be attracting kind of dark empaths and narcissists and people who don't actually care about us at all, because we have allowed ourselves to go into those patterns of behavior. So part of healing, number one, is to discover what's not working first. So we look outside for the clues, and then we go inside for the answers. So if you're not sure whether something needs healing, if you're not sure whether there's something in your life or something in your own psyche that isn't, aligned and joyous and, perfectly awesome, look at your life. All right. We look externally for all of the symptoms. Look at your relationships, your close relationships, right? Are they happy? Are they joyful? Are they connected? Are they constantly safe and supportive and kind? How do you feel in your really close relationships? Do you feel looked after? Do you feel like you do look after? How does it feel for you in those places? Does it feel great, or is there a lot of work that can be done? Right? And if you're any less than, say, 10's perfect and 0's terrible, if you're less than an 8, there is definitely going to be, and probably even if you're less than a 10, if I'm being fair, there's going to be some internal stuff that's kind of blocking that 10 out of 10 connection. And yes, they may have issues. Yes, they may have stuff going on for them. But typically, we are not going to attract that unless we have the perfect fit within us. It's called trauma bonding, right? We don't just bond from deep trauma, we bond from our wounds. And what we tend to do, especially with our super close relationships, and this can be really confronting to hear and feel because I've been there and I know how this feels, we bond to the people that are going to show us our deepest truth. They're going to show us our trauma. They're going to highlight what we haven't healed yet. And that can be really scary. And I honestly believe this is why so many people are so averse to long-term relationships, because they're too hard, people are too needy, there are so many bad people in the world. Whatever kind of belief system you want to throw at that is going to be there. And that's going to be the reason why you don't enter these relationships, where actually the problem isn't them, it's what you're reflecting, what you're putting out there into the world. Do you feel like you deserve love and joy and happiness? Do you feel like you deserve unconditional love? Do you have this absolute 10 out of 10 belief that you are worthy of happiness and joy? And if you don't, then that's an internal belief system creating an external mirror. And the mirror will be in the things that aren't working. So outside of relationships, it could be health, it could be career, it could be money, it could be any of those big things in all sorts of different iterations. I don't like my body right now. I don't like my home right now. I don't like where I'm living. I don't like my job, right? And if you're looking around and seeing all of these things that aren't working, the reflection is going to be where? Inside. And I hate saying that because it would be so easy to blame everybody else and everything else. And, my career is bad because my job's bad because the person who owns it is mean. My health is bad because I'm too stressed from work, so I don't have the energy to exercise, and my husband's mean. There's always going to be something. There is always going to be something. There's always an excuse. There's always a reason. There's always something going on that's going to stop us from embodying the life that we want to have. And again, like I said before, I think one of the scariest things is that kind of dive within, because a lot of people feel like they need to do one of a few things. Number one, they feel like they need to go and get a psychologist, which costs an enormous amount of money, and they might need to see them for 10 years in order to feel better. Number one, I don't know anyone that sees people for 10 years. And even then, if you're looking at the stages of healing, most psychologists, not all, will deal with the conscious part of healing, which is, if you can imagine an iceberg, that's the part that sits above the water, right? And as we know, icebergs is 10% above and 90% below. So when you have that 10% sitting above the water, that's where psychology sits. Is that going to change your beliefs? Is that going to change your thoughts? Is that going to change how you show up in the world? Look, honestly, maybe, and sometimes it really does help people, but is it going to change the fundamental vibration with which you show up? No. Like almost never will you have an external conscious thing create a deep internal subconscious change. Almost never happens. Okay, I'm not saying it doesn't have value. It absolutely has value. Is it going to create that deep healing that you need to do to change your attractive field in the world? I don't think so. You can change your behavior, you can change how you're showing up, but it's not going to change the beliefs that underlie it. So what happens in the healing process on the conscious level is that you are then spending your entire life hyper vigilant about how you're behaving, what you're saying, how you're showing up. Oh my goodness, I can't say that, I can't do this, I can't be here, I can't, it's exhausting. This hyper vigilance about how you think you need to be in the world is so tiring that these changes never last. But it's not because we don't want to, and it's not because we're not doing the work, and it's not because we're not trying. It's got nothing to do with that. It's because we haven't changed our system at a deep enough level. So then you go underneath the water, and then we start to deal with the unconscious or subconscious mind. So that is 90% of our mind's functioning is sub or unconscious. And the healing, the modalities that we use, like theta healing, kinesiology, there's compassion work, there's all sorts of different modalities that you can use to do the deeper unconscious healing. That's the stuff that usually starts to shift the belief systems. Okay, so how can we reach the subconscious mind? We can do it through hypnotherapy. We can do it through kinesiology. We can do it through channeling the higher self, working with our soul energy. We can do it through compassion work. We can do it through meditation. Anything that takes us out of our thinking mind and moves us into that subconscious or unconscious mind, as long as we know that the healing work requires a level of compassion and forgiveness and love, we are starting to move in the right direction. So I think when we move through this healing process, if we give ourselves permission to do some of the deeper stuff, right? We create a spiritual practice. We have relationship maintenance with ourselves, not with anybody else, but with ourselves. We tune into ourselves. We ask ourselves what's happening. We do a scan of our life and go, how's it going out there? Like, what's the reflection showing us today? And if there's a part of you that's being triggered or feels like there's pieces missing or you're struggling with something, that is an opportunity to go within. Explore your emotions. Explore the beliefs. Take yourself through a healing process. The healing processes don't have to take long. I do healing processes on myself that can take a minute. And they're really effective. But what we're doing with the healing process is to transmute the beliefs and the behaviors that are creating the problems. And the problems are our mind taking over. We're going to have a lot of talk from the collective consciousness, from social media, from everything that we look outside of ourselves. we start believing that that is who we really are. But every time we kind of breathe and go deeper, we breathe and go into our intuition, we tune into our higher selves, we get really centered, then all of that noise tends to go away and our truth comes out. Our soul light can shine there. We have the opportunity at that place to create what we want to see instead. And we do need to go through healing processes. For people that don't believe we need healing, please comment and tell me how you manage it, because I have not met a single person on the planet that has not deeply benefited from subconscious healing processes, because ultimately those are the things that change the cassette players that are playing in the background that dictate our conscious behavior, which dictates what we see around us. So remembering, giving yourself permission to get curious. The more we judge ourselves, the worse this stuff gets. The more we think about this as a picking apart process, the harder and harder it's going to be to heal. So this is about getting curious, becoming aware of what's going on, doing a healing process, and then choosing to move forward in a really positive way. And there's loads of different ways that you can do that. In our Intuitive Mastery School, we have weekly sessions where we meet up and we do classes and meditations, and it sounds a little bit boring, but it's actually quite fascinating. At the moment, we're working through morning starters. So how do we connect in with our guides? How do we connect in with our soul energy in the morning and create clarity over our day and how we're going to move through it? How do we show up already knowing in the morning exactly what our priorities are and what we need to do and what's going to kick the biggest goals, and how we can move forward with ease and grace? We do that by slowing down first, and morning starters are one of the best ways to do that. So we're teaching that in the school right now. So if you want to kind of have a bit of a routine that you get into where you can really start to connect and slow down and really find that inner voice and get out of that noise, that's going to be the part of you that you can use to create the world that you want. You get very curious about what's not working in the world. You create a healing process, then you learn how to go within every day. And you start to create what you want instead. It all becomes very conscious, but it doesn't become forced. You don't have to be mindful of everything that you do all the time. Once you've healed something, it's almost like it energetically kind of dissipates and you don't think about it anymore. You know, if you've had, I've had people who have had these really interesting kind of memories from childhood, and they come back every couple of years or even every few months or even every few weeks. And it's almost like this flash and you go, oh my gosh, that's come up again. And then it goes. And that's usually because there's something in that situation that's unhealed. So when you can heal that part of you, what happens is that memory kind of no longer comes up for you. Or if you're thinking about it, there's no emotion. So either or. If you have that memory completely disappear and it never comes back to you again, then it's 100% done. If you have occasional memories, ideally far less often, where you don't have anywhere near the escalation or trigger in terms of emotion or thoughts, then it's probably done. But if you are thinking about things and you're getting triggers or emotions, or you're looking at your life and you go, wow, this isn't really good, go within first. Do some healing processes internally and then check back into your outside world. Is your outside world calmer? Are your relationships getting better? Is your work getting better? And all of that can happen just because you've done some internal stuff, okay? So remembering the proof is in the pudding. I can only tell you the theory and only you can do the work. So decide for you. Decide whether you want to try this for a while. Give yourself an opportunity to maybe do a bit of a course to kind of calm everything down and bring yourself back into your center for a while. Give yourself the opportunity to learn more deeply about yourself, get curious about your emotions, get curious about your relationships, and just have a bit of a look and see what's working and what isn't working. And then ask yourself why. Like, where is this coming from? What's happening for me? And that becomes the basis of spirituality, of self-improvement, of starting to create your life consciously. And then from that place, you can have just the most magical things happen. It's just such a gorgeous planet that we live on. And we just have to really believe that and allow ourselves to embrace the highest possible versions of ourselves, the highest vibrational parts of ourselves, and use that. That becomes the reflection that we see in our world. When we have money start to flow through, when our relationships start to get better, when our careers take off, that becomes the affirmation that we've always been looking for. But instead of it starting from the outside inside, which is only ever very, very temporary, we're creating it permanently from the inside out. So this is another invitation. It's just an awareness that your life is not random. It's responding to your frequency. And the more you lead with truth, your truth, the more truth shows up to meet you. Okay, I hope that was a good podcast episode for you. Always welcome any comments. Any feedback is always welcome. I am curious to see how you find that internal mirror concept. And once you start to look around you and you start to see these things that are not working, it's a fascinating journey within. It doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be scary. But you don't have to do it the hard way. You don't have to bash yourself up. You don't have to spend years in therapy. You don't have to, retreat from the world. You don't have to break up with everybody. You don't have to do all of these things, because all of those are ultimately kind of avoidance patterns. They're all kind of spiritual bypassing. You're not actually dealing with what you came here to be, which is a joyous I am presence on the planet. And if you're a really long way from that concept, I get it. I get it. We have all sorts of people in the Intuitive Mastery School, and we have so many different people creating their own realities in their own ways, just through self-reflection, awareness, and healing. That is really powerful. So give yourself the gift of the reflection. Have a look, see what you like, see what you don't like, and then start to see where that reflection might lie within you. That's the beginning of healing. It's very exciting. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.